What is interesting in the changing of a structure of the political situation, for example, in the ancient political situation, is that always there were some critics. This is really interesting. On the one hand, in relation with the specific type of different type of structure between what was in the origins that type of structure, and on the other hand, what happened to be that type of structure, therefore the types of differences between these structures. For example, in the ancient Greek society, the idea that when there were the god of Olympus at the beginning, always and all it was perfect in the society. On the other hand, the idea that with after the War of Troy, the different type of situation changed in this sense always. Also, the social fact. Therefore, for example, if we have to consider three authors, on the one hand, Hesiod, on the other hand, Homer, and on the other hand, in the end, Plato. Authors that are of different type of periods, historical periods. For example, in this sense, Homer it was probably of the 8th century BC, Hesiod probably it was of 8th, 7th century BC, and Plato it was of 5th, 4th century BC. In this sense, we connect. We can connect these authors, but we understand that these are different authors. And on the one hand, for example, Hesiod took Hesiod took from Homer, but at the same time, Homer delivered to the ancient Greek people his type of epics. This is really interesting because connecting the ideas that other people developed between mythology and between religion, this type of ideas arriving to Homer. Homer interpreted and elaborated these ideas, developing his two, in particular, if Homer wrote these two poems, we know that Homer wrote the Iliad and Odyssey. What would I like to this? In fact, I would like that Homer, in this sense, created a specific type of new world with a specific type of war. But at the beginning, he's just explained that the war it was a little bit perfect, or better, more perfect than it was before, in particular in relation with the idea of scarcity. In fact, if we take the theogony and we take in Hesiod the idea of the works in the lands, the idea of agriculture, the idea of cultivation, etc., we understand that according to Hesiod, men have to work to arrive to create something to sustain his life. This is really interesting because if we think about this, on the one hand, in the first type of age, men couldn't work so much. In other words, man could have everything he wanted. On the other hand, instead, after the War of Troy, things change and change in relation with the idea that man had to work to maintain himself, to maintain his family, to maintain his social group. And on the other hand, this idea, it was in relationship also with the idea of Plato, that on the other hand explained that in the war, that period of Atlantis, in the period of ancient Athens, the first type of Athens that knew that Atlantis, the city of mythology existed. In that period, the Attica, the territory, the land across Athens, saw a specific type of hegemony of the wealth. In this sense, there wasn't scarcity and everything could be. Therefore, men couldn't work, or the work is not. It wasn't so important. At the same time, the workers weren't so important, but only the idea of citizenship. And also, it wasn't this type of relationship, according to Plato, in the primordial age with this idea of citizenship and workers, because workers couldn't work. At the same time, with the idea of working, arrived also the idea of citizenship. This is another idea really interesting that could be debated also today. If a citizen is he is also a worker or not, and if his skills are in relation with works, and a student, a citizenship is also a worker, or these two topics are divided. According to Plato, in the end, are not divided. As a citizen, it's also, sorry, a worker. This is really interesting. And if you think about this, if we compare this type of meaning with the Christian meaning, we arrive to the same point of view with different type of structure. In fact, the Christian point of view explained that in the origin it was the natural law, or better, it was the positive law, or better, it was the law of the state, because it wasn't the specific type of rulers. On the one hand, in ancient Greek society, there was a specific type of wealth without scarcity, with the primordial type of ages. And in the Christian point of view, also we see this in the first type of Christian point of view. In the primordial age, we see that in the first time it was the main wealth with God that explained that the two first men could have everything they wanted without touch the apple of Eden. This is really interesting. Why there was the main sin, the original sin? Because Adamus and Eva took the fruit of Eden, and with this action, they lived the idea of natural law to the world of scarcity. In fact, God decided to take Adam and Eva and brought this in the world, that world that Plato supported as the world of a copy of ideas. This is really interesting because, on the other hand, Adamus and Eva, with this action, that it wasn't in relation with the hope of God, created a new, or better, demanded indirectly in front of God to create a new type of world in relation with the idea of a world of scarcity. In fact, God brought Adam and Eva in the world of scarcity. They had to work to sustain themselves, to survive. And on the other hand, God took Adam and Eva and brought them to this world with the necessity of law, because sometimes someone could attack the other, could impose on the other his ideas, his opinions. But the role of the law, it is important for this, because only in the idea of the rule of law we can speak about law. Therefore, only in the world of scarcity, in the world that has the economy as necessity, and at the same time as the relationship between men in relation with the scarcity and the economy, could explain the idea of the law. Because when Adam and Eva, they were in relationship in the Idean world, in the world of perfection. At the same time, in any case, there were no scarcity. God is perfect, therefore create a perfectly connection between things. Therefore, there is the necessity of the law. But in the world where there is scarcity, there is necessity of economy. There is there are the neighbors, because Adam and Eva knew themselves and knew that in that world, in the in the world of perfection of God, they knew always in that world. But in the world, in the new world, in the world of scarcity, in the world of imperfection, in the world where souls can apply sins, can do sins, in this world, Adam and Eva don't know everything. On the contrary, they have to understand, they have to follow new paths, new ways. they have to understand that they cannot understand everything, and therefore they have to pay attention because they don't know everything. This is the necessity of a law, and this is the necessity of economy. The same law in the same economy that explain, in this sense, also Hesiod in relation with the idea of Homer between these two worlds. And this is the idea of natural law, in other hands. The idea of the perfection, natural law that is stable, is the same idea for all and for all times and for all of people. But the idea that this natural law arrives into a world of scarcity, it compels that this type of natural law has to connect with a new type of structure, therefore positive law, a law that could change in relation with scarcity and economy, in relation anyway with morality, because Adam and Eva, the men and women in the world of perfection, cannot think about what is morality, because in that world always there is the perfect morality. But when God took them and bringing them to the world of the copy of ideas, according to Plato, of our world, in that moment, arrived not only the relationship between economics, scarcity, and law, but arrived and not only the idea of knowledge, but also the idea that there is something to understand that we don't understand. And therefore, the idea that there is something that we have to do to survive. And in relation with this, the idea that there isn't a stable law, because the stable law is only in relation with the perfect morality. But pay attention, because we are not in relation with perfect morality. We are in relation with a morality that moves itself. In this world, God can support us, but not always. And at the same time, we have to use the morality, because to choose good or better than before, we have to choose. Therefore, we have to use morality in that moment, in that world, perfectly, where there is perfect, where is where all is perfect. There isn't a necessity to use our knowledge, to use our brain to think about morality, because indirectly, always and all is good. It's the main good in that world. But if we are in the world of imperfection, now we have to debate what is morality. Now we have to debate what we have to do to our scarcity, to how to use our scarcity, because we can use to do A or B. We can use to do A or B in different type of behaviors. I can use a specific type of behavior to arrive to A in that specific way, or to arrive to A in another specific way. These are new type of arguments, but these arguments are in relation with the idea of scarcity that also, before the Christianity point of view, theorized, for example, Hesiod, with the idea of Homer, and in relation also with Plato, that Plato arrived to theorize the idea of philosophy. Philosophy that exists only when there is no scarcity. Philosophy that exists only when there is scarcity. When there is scarcity, when there is no scarcity, there is no philosophy. Because philosophy is the science of the scarcity. Probably man arrived to think about God only in relation with the idea of scarcity. We think about metaphysics only when we know that there is a necessity of physics. Because if we know God, why would we understand what God is? If we already know God, or if we know that God exists, according to Plato, therefore, we can use and we can apply, we can do philosophy only if we don't know if God exists. But at the same time, we have some rule that God explain about himself in relation with maths, according to Plato, in relation with some rules, objective, that we can understand, we can use to arrive to some objective answers, results. And with this, we can create a specific type of connections and reasons, and we can think about what is correct and incorrect, what is just and wrong, what is good and bad. A sort of connection also with a debate between moralities. Bye.